Welcome to the One Life Leadership video blog. Today we're going to be looking at part one of a four-part series on how you communicate vision to your church and to those you're trying to lead. Now, most pastors think that happens through church announcements. Church announcements can be effective, but really they can be the most tragic part of any church service. I can remember going to a church in the Western Cape once, many years ago, where I had to sit through 20 minutes. I'm not kidding you, 20 minutes of announcements. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry came up there to make his announcement. And they just gassed on and on. They hadn't thought it through, half of them. There was even an announcement that there was to be an elders meeting. Now, I looked up and down that front row and I thought, there are only 3 elders here. And there are around about 200 people having to sit through an announcement. What does that tell you about the elders? Either they never talk to each other, or they want to boast that they're actually having these sort of meetings. Just an absolute waste of time. So, listen, if you're going to make church announcements, a handy idea is to use media, because you can make the announcement in advance, cut out all the waffling, make it effective. And in fact, people listen to videos these days. That's the way we interact with the world. And you only need this particular vlog I'm giving to you now has been done with no particular sound system or fancy video. It's just my iPhone. And so you can do it that way. But if you don't have the skills for that, a live presentation of the announcements should be governed by these guidelines. One, we never make church announcements unless it affects 50% of the church. So a grannies meeting in the morning, there are other ways to communicate to those grannies other than making the 90% who are not going to come have to listen. Youth meetings. Youth doesn't normally, involve 50% of the church. So men's meetings do, women's meetings do, church-wide events do, big church events do, and then family announcements like the births and marriages of people that you want the whole church to know about. But we have this general rule: if it's not going to affect 50% of the people, find another way to communicate it. In addition to that, we don't believe that there should be more than 2, 3 max announcements made. People don't remember 6 announcements. Take your 3 most important, whittle it down to your top 2, and then be very clear what you're trying to achieve. Are you just want to create some general awareness, or do you want people to sign up? Do you want them to attend something? Make sure you end with what you're trying to achieve. But church announcements are only one way to get people on vision with you. You can drip feed it in your sermon. That's another way. Sometimes a visionary announcement is so important, your whole sermon can center around it. I spent 5 weeks recently trying to envision the church of the importance and the need to get involved in connect groups, our small groups. That was worth 5 sermons. If it's not worth, putting a whole sermon toward it, drip feeding it, telling stories, etc. in your sermon gives it credibility, context, and is an effective way to motivate. If you want to use your website, people have got to know you've got one. And then, there are websites and websites. To really get people envisioned, your first thing that you see ought to be the thing that you're leading the church to in that season. And if it's a high priority always, it shouldn't be more than 2 clicks away. To hide things on your website isn't going to encourage people to see it or to be compelled to act on it. If you're going to use social media, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, etc., use young people to help you. They understand the way around that social media, and use people who've got a large number of followers and interaction on it. They'll give you a good feel for it and how to use that mechanism. A general principle to inspire a whole church is to find out who your opinion leaders are. Who moves big groups of people? In some churches, it's the matriarch, mom. You got to ask her. Some it's just some loud extrovert sort of person. Others it's just good, strong leaders, maybe your connect group leaders. Get those guys on side, one-on-one. Get them to pass on the message. That's another great way to move people. Using your connect groups, putting messages through your connect groups, but you've got to give them tools and what to say. Using handouts when people arrive at the church is an effective way, but it's an expensive way. And then you've got to show people how to use it. You should never give an invite to the church people to come to something. You're giving them an invite to invite their friends to bring something to it. Mailing lists, email and WhatsApp lists, etc. are effective. But you've got to be avoiding spam with that. Think through your messages very carefully. You know, the more you make use of means like that, the more resistant people become to it. And so you've got to look at what you're wanting to say, who you're wanting to move, and then think through the medium that you're going to use to bring your vision across.